5, and this one's hard for me because colour makes my heart sing. Hello there, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. Today I have a video that has been requested on quite a number of occasions, and it is where I have received messages asking me to do a video for tips if you're starting your luxury journey. Now, luxury journey. Mine has been a little bit interesting given that in my background there was definitely no room for things like this. So my luxury journey started much later than a lot of people that you will come across on YouTube. I was 30 before I bought my first luxury bag. It was my Neverfull. It was the bag that I really wanted at the time. I still adore that bag. And it's kind of went from there, but there was quite big gaps in that time period where I didn't really buy any luxury items or very limited luxury items. And I had to put together probably what would have been classed as a very small curated collection because I didn't have the funds to buy multiples of things. I didn't have the funds to buy multiple bags, multiple accessories, SLGs, shoes, jewellery. It just wasn't possible. So I had to pick items and put them together to try and elevate most looks that were probably Primark or New Look, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with those clothes because I still wear them, but that was just how I tried to put it together to make my bags kind of work with everything once I was getting more into being interested in this luxury rabbit hole that we all fall down. So my tips for anyone that is starting out on a luxury journey, and the first one that I would say is probably one of the most important tips that I would give you, and it is to keep your eye on the prize. Keep your eye on the prize. And by that, I mean know what it is that you absolutely really want. Know what your first dream bag is. Now, if it's a Kelly or a Birkin, maybe, park that. That's probably the ones that would come out of this because of the amount of spending and time that you have to spend building up an Hermes relationship before you'd be able to get one of those bags, unless you're lucky enough to be in a position that comes easier. But if you're building up a collection and starting along the ways that I do, or a lot of us do, and working hard for each piece and paying for each piece as you go, a Kelly or a Birkin is probably not a realistic dream first bag. So taking them aside, but apart from that, I would say keep your eye on the prize. If your dream bag, if the first thing that you want to get is a Chanel Mini, go for a Chanel Mini. If the first thing that you want to get is a Chanel Classic Flap or a Louis Vuitton Neverfull like me, or I'm looking behind me to see what else is there, a Louis Vuitton Twist, or any of those bags, keep working towards the dream bag, because it is very likely that whatever else you buy will not take away the want and the itch and the need for you to get that bag. So if you're thinking to yourself, the bag that I really want and my heart is screaming for is a Chanel Mini or a Chanel Classic Flap, but you're thinking to yourself, that's going to take me much longer to save for, and if you buy something else instead, the likelihood is you're still going to want that Chanel bag. And as you put it off, and the monies, if you're saving up and maybe saving up £100, £200, £300, and then using that money on something else, you're going to have to start from scratch again. And you're going to be starting from zero to save up what it is to get the piece that you want. And while you're taking the time to save up that money, those price increases are going to keep going up and up and up. So if there is a dream bag that is screaming at you, I would say try and stick to that bag and saving for that bag, and try not to get distracted with other bags that are maybe more accessible or more financially accessible, or that also goes into other points that I'm going to make with things like SLGs. Try not to get distracted by those. The only caveat that I would put to that is when you are picking your dream bag and the bag that you're going to stay on track for, is be realistic. Know your own finances. Know if that is something that is within your power to reach, or know if that is, like for myself at the minute, the Kelly, which is just an long unrealized dream. If it's something that will not be within your power, just be realistic whenever you're choosing the bag that is your dream bag that you're going to want to start with and save towards, because you also don't want to get very disheartened by trying to save for something which realistically is not going to be in your reach. My second tip kind of ties into that. And when you are sticking to looking and saving for the bag that you really, really want to start your collection, consider Preloved. Consider the Preloved market. Now, if the bag for you is one of the hot ticket items that is really, really sought after, Preloved is not going to help, because Preloved is probably going to be 1.5 times the price that it was on retail, if not double. So that is an exception. But if your dream bag is a Chanel Classic Flap or a Chanel Mini or many of the Louis Vuitton bags, do consider looking Preloved. Now, do your research, which is point number 3. Do your research. Do your research on the seller. Do your research on how you're going to pay for it. Do your research on the condition. Do your research and make sure the bag that you're buying is authentic. But if you be patient is another part of this tip. If you are patient and you do your research and you spend your time looking for the right bag and you're comfortable with that bag, you could save hundreds or thousands on that bag from what retail would be. And it could allow you to get that bag that you're dreaming of sooner, but it could also then free up other funds for you to buy other things whenever you're not having to put all of the money to this one item. That is just my opinion. Other people may say that their opinion would be, when starting a collection, to go for a lesser bag or a more achievable bag. I just think that if your heart is singing for one bag in particular, that when you buy that lesser bag, your heart is still going to be singing for that one bag in particular. And if you're starting your journey and you're going to have a smaller curated collection like I did, you want that smaller curated collection to have pieces in it that you love and that work for you, and that you're not thinking, I wish I had waited and bought something else. That's just my opinion and what I would recommend that you think about doing. We've talked about researching. Please make sure you research the seller. Please make sure you get the bag checked to make sure it's authentic if it's pre-loved. Please make sure you research the price to know if it's a reasonable price if you're going down the pre-loved market. Do your due diligence. That's really, really important. If you watched my scammed video, it can happen to anyone. As you can see, Crazy over here has been buying handbags for quite some time. I'm buying quite a few handbags, but I still managed to get scammed. I still managed to buy a bag, pre-loved, and get scammed. That's another story altogether. I will link that somewhere, but do your research, do your due diligence and your research on the price, on the condition, on the seller, on all of those things to make sure that what you're getting is authentic and is proper. Also, set yourself a budget. This is number 4. Set yourself a budget, because it can be so easy when we all fall for these beautiful, beautiful items to get carried away. I've done it. If there is a bag or an item that you become obsessed about and you don't have patience, going back to tip number 1, have patience, but you don't have patience and it's coming up at a really, really big price, but it's what you really, really wanted, there is always, always going to be a draw to think about just buying it. I would say set a budget, set what you know you can afford, but a realistic budget. If you're looking for a classic flap, there's no point you setting a budget of £1,000. Set a budget that is realistic for the bag that you're looking for, but set a budget, because otherwise you can be tempted to go over that and spend a lot of money that you maybe need for other things, or that is too much for that item because it comes up or because it's available, and that can be a little bit dangerous. So I would say set a budget, be strict with that budget, and keep having a look back at that whenever you're looking at items. The next thing that I would say, number 5, and this one's hard for me because colour makes my heart sing, as you can see, but I would say be careful with colour. Now, if you're buying your first bag and your first bag is a colour like this pink I absolutely adore, that wouldn't be a problem. It wouldn't be a problem that I was buying my first bag in that colour, because I adore that colour and I would not be planning to sell that colour. Now, I don't buy bags planning to sell them. Most of us don't buy bags planning to sell them, but it can happen. Some bags just don't work out for your lifestyle. Some bags just don't work out. And if you have bought a colour bag that is not one of the sought after must-have colours, it will take you, 1, longer to sell your bag, and 2, the resale value will be less on that bag because of the colour. So if that is the case and you're looking at colour, just be aware of that and just bear that in mind if there is a potential that you may have to resell that bag. Number 6. Number 6 on my tips for starting a small journey, starting any journey, is be careful with SLGs. Limit your SLGs. Now, we all know that I went crazy town last year whenever in lockdown, a lot of the SLGs that are normally very, very hard to get for Louis Vuitton suddenly became available on the website, and I clicked, add to bag, click, add to bag, click, add to bag. I had a ball. I had a great time to myself with the UPS man coming all the time. He was called Michael, by the way. Here you go. Here's your bags. Really glad you like them. Here's your things. And I got really carried away. Limit your SLGs. My personal opinion is that if you're starting your luxury journey, you don't need multiple SLGs. You don't need multiple card holders. You don't need multiple pouches. You don't need lots of key holders. What they're going to do, because they're £150 at a time, £170 at a time, £190 at a time, they're not the price of the bags that you're maybe looking to get, and they seem much more accessible, but they're going to eat away at your funds, and you don't need lots and lots of them. So I would say be realistic when you look at your SLGs. Think about what you actually want to have. Maybe a card holder, maybe one key holder, maybe one pouch. What it is you're going to use and you want as part of your collection. But when you're starting your journey, limit them, because they can eat up your money. And before you know it, you had a bag sitting in front of you, or the price of a bag sitting in front of you. And then you have the drama of, do you keep them? Do you sell them? You have to go through all the seller anxiety, and it's not easy. So I would say, please limit your SLGs. Next one, number 7. And this is what I did when I was starting my luxury journey. I limited my accessories and came up with a kind of curated capsule luxury collection. So I had my Neverfull, and then I had the next bag that I bought was a Speedy in the Empreinte leather. So I had my big tote, I had my Neverfull, which I wore across me, or I wore top handle if I was going somewhere slightly dressier. And that was all the bags I had for a long time. For a long time, the Neverfull was on its own, but they kind of worked for everything. And then I had a couple of pairs of designer shoes, and then I bought a Louis Vuitton scarf, which plucks, but I bought it and wore it lots and absolutely loved it. And then I bought a pair of Chanel CC stud earrings, and then I bought an Hermes click-clack bracelet. Now, you will get other people say to you, don't waste your money on costume jewellery. And it is costume jewellery, and know what you're buying. But I didn't have the funds to buy fine jewellery. And I wanted to be able to put together this small, curated capsule luxury collection to wear with everything. So costume jewellery worked for me. I still wear my costume jewellery. I still love my costume jewellery. Now, I don't buy an excessive amount of it, but I still think for me in my wardrobe, there is a place for it. So when I was doing this, I had a couple of bags, I had my shawl, and then I got another shawl. I had a couple of bits of costume jewellery. I had a couple of bits of designer footwear. And when you put them all together and mix-maxed them, it was able to work for me with my wardrobe and have that kind of capsule look and feel that worked for a lot of different events or different situations. And I would recommend that, to kind of take a look at the overall look that you're trying to go for and what you're trying to have in your wardrobe, and fill the spots for those different items that worked together and work with what's already in your wardrobe. Don't forget about what's already in there that you can put together and work with what's already there to make the looks that you're going for. Now, things that I would say whenever I still would limit, and I would say limit whenever you're looking at the accessories that you need. Pick accessories that are useful. So the shawl you wear as a scarf as long as your weather, your temperature works for that, and it can go with so many things and so many coats and outfits. And what I didn't have was twillies. I still don't have any twillies or bandos or the other names, mitzvahs for Dior. I would love to be able to do them in my hair, but I'm rubbish at that, so that's not going to work. Limit them. Bag charms. You do not need, when you are starting your luxury journey, lots of bag charms. I have one that's somewhere and it has the heart on it and I really, really like it. And I wear it with most of my monogram bags. Really, really like it. I just chop and change it. I take it off. It's got a wee easy hook and I move it between the different bags. Because regardless of how many of these we have and what we try to convince ourselves, you can only use one bag at a time. Or maybe one crossbody bag and a never full. But you don't need a whole collection of bag charms. If whenever you've moved on with your luxury collection and that's what you want to do and have a whole lot of bag charms, you go for it. You do you and you buy what makes you happy, but just think about the price of those things and how many of you're buying them and do you really need to have that many? And when you're starting your collection, I would really say limit those. I would also say, and this is one that I fight the urge for on a daily basis, and this is my last tip. A lot of the design houses are bringing out really, really pretty makeup and they come in such beautiful packaging, and I like packaging, and most of us luxe lovers like packaging. So the Hermes lipsticks, if you're buying it because it's Hermes or because it's Gucci or because it comes in the packaging, just urge caution with that. Because if it's not makeup you're going to use or wear as part of your everyday makeup, it could end up being a costly amount sitting in your room or your desk that you're not using and could end up amounting for quite a bit of money. So I just would say be careful with that and be careful with the really, really pretty makeup that I have to stay away from because the packaging's so cute. And I think to myself, oh, imagine that in your bag and imagine taking it out. No, but I wouldn't wear it. I use the same makeup all the time. So that would be my last tip. I hope this was helpful. This is just my opinion. If any of this you disagree with, please don't take offense. This is just my opinion on how I did it. I was doing it at the start with very, very limited funds. So that definitely has an impact on what I chose to buy. I hope this has helped. I hope this is what you were looking for whenever you asked me to do this video. Thank you so much for watching me. Please take care. I hope you're well. I hope your family's well, and I'll see you again in the next one.